And welcome to Day Home Divas. I'm Joanne.
I'm Cash.
And I'm Sophia.
This episode, we are going to talk about the history of some of the popular nursery rhymes. What do Stephen King, Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, and Bram Stoker, Mary Shelley, and Mother Goose have in common? They are all famous for their horror writing. Yes, that fictional grande dame of children's poems has got a bit of a dark streak, as evidenced by sinister origins of some of the most well-known nursery rhymes. The earliest nursery rhymes date back to the 14th century, although it wasn't until the 18th century that the classics that we still hear today emerged and flourished. The first nursery rhyme collection to be printed was Tommy Thumb's Songbook around 1744. A century later, Edmund Rimbault published a nursery rhyme collection, which was the first one printed to include noted music. The roots probably go back even further throughout history and present day. Every culture creates some type of rhyming ditties for children. According to child development experts Sue Palmer and Ross Bailey, nursery rhymes with music significantly aid a child's mental development and spatial reasoning. Seth Lehrer, Dean of Arts and Humanities at the University of California, San Diego, has also emphasized the ability of nursery rhymes to foster emotional connections and cultivate language. When we sing them, we're participating in something that bonds parent and child. So when modern parents expose their kids to vintage nursery rhymes, they're engaging with centuries-old tradition that on the surface, at least, is not only harmless, but potentially beneficial. But what about those twisted lyrics and dark backstories? To unpick the meanings behind the rhymes is to be thrust into a world not of sweet princesses and cute animals, but of messy, clerical, political, politics, religious, violence, sex, illness, murder, spies, traitors, and the supernatural.
Ba Ba Black Sheep, 1731. Ba Ba Black Sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. One for the master, one for the dame, and one for the little boy who lived down the lane. Though most scholars agree that Ba Ba Black Sheep is about the great custom, a tax on wool that was introduced in 1275. Its use of the color black and the word master led some to wonder whether there was a racial message at its center. Its political correctness was called into question yet again in the latter part of the 20th century, with some schools banning it from being repeated in classrooms and others simply switching out the word black for something deemed less offensive. In 2011, news outlet reported on the proliferation of Baba rainbow sheep as an alternative. This, however, is not true. The black sheep refers to those who were struggling to pay the tax. It has nothing to do with skin color or race. Not surprisingly, this rhyme is all about sheep and the importance of sheep to the English economy. Until the late 16th century, the final lines of the rhyme read, "And none for the little boy who cries down the lane." It was changed to the current version in order to cheer up and make it into a song more suitable for children. In medieval England, the wool trade was big business. There was enormous demand for it, mainly to produce cloth, and everyone who had land, from peasants to major landowners, raised sheep. The great English landowners, including lords, abbots, and bishops, began to count their wealth in terms of sheep, with some flocks totaling over 8,000 animals, all tended by dozens of full-time shepherds. After returning from the Crusades in 1272, Edward I imposed new taxes on the wool trade in order to pay for his military ventures. It is believed that this wool tax forms the background to the rhyme. 1/3 of the price of each bag, or sack sold, was for the king, the master, 1/3 to the monasteries or church, the dame, and none to the poor shepherd, the little boy who cries down the lane, who had tirelessly tended and protected the flock.
Goosey, goosey, gander, 1784. Goosey, goosey, gander, whither shall I wander? Upstairs and downstairs, and in my lady's chamber. There I met an old man who wouldn't say his prayers, so I took him by his left leg and threw him down the stairs. The stairs went crack, he nearly broke his back, and all the little ducks went quack, quack, quack. During the reign of Henry VIII and his children, Catholicism was outlawed in England, and Catholic priests were persecuted for refusing to say their prayers in English or for continuing to practice their faith. The rhyme's old man is often interpreted as a Catholic priest, possibly hidden in a lady's chamber, a priest hole. The line, "So I took him by his left leg and threw him down the stairs," is seen as a reference to the brutal punishments faced by priests caught and apprehended.
Isn't that brutal?
That is brutal. I've never even heard of that one before, so.
I remember singing that all the time when I was in like primary school.
Oh, wow.
And I had no idea. Like even Baba Black Sheep, not a clue. It's just some of these are just cool. They're like backstory. I mean, cool, I guess, is not really the appropriate word. It's horrific, but hearing the backstories, I don't know. I find it fascinating. Okay,
That's crazy.
Right? So London Bridge is falling down, 1744. Oh, this is really long. Okay, I'm not reading this whole thing right now.
Gold and silver I have none, I have none, I have none. Gold and silver I have none, my fair lady. Build it up with needles and pins, needles and pins, needles and pins. Build it up with needles and pins, my fair lady. Pins and needles bend and break, bend and break, bend and break. Pins and needles bend and break, my fair lady. Build it up with wood and clay, wood and clay, wood and clay. Build it up with wood and clay, my fair lady. Wood and clay will wash away, wash away, wash away. Wood and clay will wash away, my fair lady. Build it up with stone so strong, stone so strong, stone so strong. Build it up with stone so strong, my fair lady. Stone so strong will last so long, last so long, last so long. Stone so strong will last so long, my fair lady. Yikes. Well, that was brutal. So sorry to put all of you through that.
Okay, so I've heard London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down.
Yeah.
London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. But I've never heard the rest of it.
Oh, okay. So when we used to sing this, we used to all basically like there'd be two lines and like two, and so then you would hold the person's hands in front of you.
And you'd have to try
and then and then someone has to run through the hands.
You have to try and break through the hands. But we've only ever read the first part. I've never heard the rest of it.
I've only got bits and pieces of it, so I've like only heard of like the stones and build her up with wood, and
it's interesting, right?
Some of it, I guess, didn't cross the ocean well. In 2006, Fergie got saucy with some of the classic kids' tunes lyrics, but the original song wasn't much better, depending on whom you ask. London Bridge is falling down could be about the 1014 Viking attack or the normal deterioration of an old bridge. Most specifically, many sources tie the nursery rhyme to the alleged destruction of the London Bridge at the hands of Olaf II of Norway, sometime in the early 1000s, alleged because some historians don't believe the attack ever took place. The song's popularity around the world is often cited as further proof that it was the Vikings who created it, believing that they brought the tune to the many places they traveled. There's a pretty big problem with this explanation, though. It largely hinges on Samuel Lang's 19th century translation of an Old Norse poem that seems to mirror the well-known London Bridge. The translation begins, "London Bridge is broken down, gold is won, and bright renown." That apparently illustrates similarity is no accident, though. It's quite likely that the translation was in fact intentionally mimicking the already well-known nursery rhyme. A more accurate translation from the years later renders the similarities between the skaldic verse and the children's rhyme basically non-existent.
Jack and Jill, 1765. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. Up Jack got, and home did trot as fast as he could caper. He went to bed to mend his head with vinegar and brown paper. One of the most common theories surrounding the story's origin is that it's about Franz Louis XVI and his wife, Marie Antoinette, who were both found guilty of treason and subsequently beheaded. The only problem is that those events occurred nearly 30 years after Jack and Jill was first written. The more likely story attributes the rhyme to the 17th century King of England, Charles I. Apparently, he attempted to increase taxes on alcohol, and which were generally measured in units known as jack and gills. After that failed, he instead reduced the price of the jack, about 1/8 of a pint, and in turn the Jill, which is twice the size of a jack. So the Jill's increased price came tumbling after. The small village of Kilmersundon in North Somerset claims to be the home of the Jack and Jill rhyme. Local legend recalls how in the late 15th century, a young unmarried couple regularly climbed a nearby hill in order to conduct their liaison in private, away from prying eyes of the village. Obviously, a very close liaison, Jill, fell pregnant, but just before the baby was born, Jack was killed by a rock that had fallen from their special hill. A few days later, Jill died while giving birth to their love child. Their tragic tale unfolds today on a series of inscribed stones that leads along a path to that special hill. That'd be pretty cool to see that special hill, I guess.
Right? It kind of reminds me of Dobby's grave in Scotland. You don't know what I'm talking about? Okay. Like Dobby, the house elf from Harry Potter. Never mind. Moving on.
I know Harry Potter has like the whole like 9 3/4 train track and all that you could go see too.
Yep. Yeah, I've been there. I have pictures.
I know that much.
Yeah, in King's Cross. So Dobby was like the house elf. He was kind of a big deal, right? And so in the movie, spoiler alert, anyone has not seen it, seriously at this point. But anyway, so he is killed, and the spot that he's killed is an actual location in Scotland.
Oh.
And people started writing on these rocks, and they made like a big grave site as in like memorial for him. It's pretty cool. If you look it up online, it's pretty
that
cool.
is cool. That's super
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
I'm a bit of a nerd, but that's
yeah,
okay.
I know you are.
What? You mean I don't hide it well?
No, you don't hide it well. That's okay. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Early 19th century. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by the toe. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. My mother told me to pick the very best one, and you are it. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo is one of those rhymes that is ingrained in our cultural limbic system. Once we hear the first two syllables, the rest unspools, whether we want it to or not. No one knows what eeny, meeny might mean. It turns up in strange places, in Pulp Fiction, in the Great Vermont Corn Maze, in Justin Bieber songs. But where did eeny, meeny come from? Kipling tells us that eeny, meeny, miny, and mo were the first big four of the long ago. But that's not such a good lead. What we do know is that once eeny, meeny appeared on the scene, it was everywhere in the 50s and 60s. The formidable husband and wife folklorists, Iona and Peter Opie, recorded hundreds of variants in England and America, including, to name just a few, Hannah Mana Mona Mike, Barcelona Bona Strike, Harware Frown Venek, Herico, Warco, we wo whack. Ina, mina, mina, mo, cracka, fina, fina, fo. Uppa, nucha, poopa, tucha, ring, ding, dang, do. Any, mini, miny, bars.
So,
Any, mini, mony, my. Barcelona, stony sty. Eggs, butter, cheese, bread. Stick, stack, stone, dead. Jima, 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 Joe. Jickadamy, jackadamy, jury. Hika, Sika, Pika, Whoa. Jima, 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 Mo. Joe. Why did you make me do this? That's terrible. I couldn't even pronounce half those words.
when you're typing it out, it doesn't occur to me. Oh,
I'm crying.
goodness.
Oh, that was terrible.
It doesn't hit the same way when you're typing it. When I'm
Like,
typing it, I'm like, yep, this totally makes sense. This is fantastic. This is great information.
like
And
uppa,
then
nucha, papa, tucha, ring, ding, dang, do. Oh my god, I've never heard of that before. Okay.
oh my goodness.
I can't.
I expect everyone singing this to their kids on Tuesday.
Right? Not only are there hordes of eeny meenies, there are just as many counting out schemes that share the same DNA. Hinty, minty, cutty corn, wire, briar, limber, lock, United States. Inty, tinty, ithy, beerthy, England. Ippity, sippity, ippity, sap, Ippity, Sippity, Keneela, Knack, Scotland. And I'd be remiss in omitting 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4, 5 potato, 6 potato, 7 potato more, which flirts with replacing eeny mini as the counting out gold standard in the United States. In the canonical eeny mini, tiger is standard in the second line. This is a relatively recent revision. If it doesn't seem to make sense, even in the gibberish eeny mini world that you grab a carnivorous cat's toe and expect the tiger to do the hollering, remember that in both England and America, children until recently said catch a N-word by the toe, the N-word to tiger shift is one of the rare instances where changes in the rhyme happen in such an explicit and pointed fashion. The rhyme morphs constantly, but usually ad hoc. And each kickball chord has its own particular flavor based more on random chance. The child's popular improvisation might catch on and change the rhyme in certain rain for decades. Many variations of eeny mini have cropped up through mishearing the way a game or of telephone or Chinese whispers retains the sound of the original but mangles the sense. Some are mongreens, a term coined by the author Sylvia Wright when she heard and laid him on the green as a lady Mond Green. Excuse me while I kiss this guy is a Mond Green for Jimi Hendrix lyrics. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. And Taylor Swift's long list of ex-lovers are lonely Starbucks lovers.
Mary, Mary, quite contrary, 1744. Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row, and pretty maids all in a row. It is debated whether Mary, Mary, quite contrary is about Mary, Queen of Scots, or Mary the First, also known as Mary Tudor or Bloody Mary. They were both named Mary and were related, but Mary, Queen of Scots, was the granddaughter of Margaret Tudor. Henry VII's sister, while Mary I was the daughter of Henry VIII. Mary I was the Queen of England, and Mary, Queen of Scots, was the Queen of Scotland. This popular English rhyme, which reads like a solicitation for gardening advice, according to Mary, is a recounting of the homicidal nature of Queen Mary I of England, aka Mary Tudor, aka Bloody Mary. A fierce believer in Catholicism, her reign as queen from 1553 to 1558 was marked by the execution of hundreds of Protestants. Queen Mary was a staunch Catholic, and her garden here is an allusion to the graveyards which were filled with Protestant martyrs. The silver bells were thumbscrews, while cockle shells were believed to be instruments of torture, which were attached to male genitals. How does your garden grow? This could refer to the lack of heirs or the idea that England became a Catholic vassal of Spain and the Habsburgs. Quite contrary, this could refer to the attempt to reverse the religious changes made by her father Henry VIII and brother Edward VI. Pretty maids all in a row, this could be interpreted as a reference of her miscarriages, the execution of Lady Jane Grey, or the execution of Protestants during her reign. However, some believe that it refers to Mary, Queen of Scots. The cockle shells and silver bells are supposed to have been ornaments on a dress given to her by her first husband, the Dauphin of France. The pretty maids all in a row were her ladies in waiting, the famous four Marys. How does your garden grow? This could refer to her reign over Scotland. Silver bells may symbolize the Catholic cathedral bells, reflecting her religious beliefs. Cockle shells could allude to her husband's infidelity. The pretty maids all in a row could refer to her ladies in waiting, known as the Four Marys.
Three Blind Mice, 1805. Three blind mice, see how they run, see how they run. They all ran after the farmer's wife, who cut off their tails with carving knife. Did you see such a thing in your life as three blind mice? Three Blind Mice is supposedly yet another ode to Bloody Mary's reign, with the trio in question believed to be a group of Protestant bishops: Hugh Latimer, Nicholas Radley, and the Archbishop of Canterbury, Thomas Cranmer, who unsuccessfully conspired to overthrow the Queen and were burned at the stake for their heresy. Critics suggest that the blindness in the title refers to their religious beliefs.
Here we go round the mulberry bush. Here we go round the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush. Here we go around the mulberry bush so early in the morning. This is the way we wash our clothes, wash our clothes, wash our clothes. This is the way we wash our clothes so early in the morning. This is the way we iron our clothes, iron our clothes, iron our clothes. This is the way we iron our clothes so early Tuesday morning. This is the way we mend our clothes, mend our clothes, mend our clothes. This is the way we mend our clothes so early Wednesday morning. This is the way we sweep the floor, sweep the floor, sweep the floor. This is the way we sweep the floor so early Thursday morning. This is the way we scrub the floor, scrub the floor, scrub the floor. This is the way we scrub the floor so early Friday morning. This is the way we bake our bread, bake our bread, bake our bread. This is the way we bake our bread so early Saturday morning. This is the way we get dressed up, get dressed up, get dressed up. This is the way we get dressed up so early Sunday morning. Here we go around the mulberry bush is often sung as part of a children's game. Historian R.S. Duncan, a former governor of England's Wakefield prison, suggested that the song originated with that 420-year-old institution's female prisoners who exercised around a mulberry tree, which is probably not the connotation your 6-year-old self had in mind. The rhyme was first recorded by James Orchard Halliwell in England, Shakespearean scholar, antiquarian, and a collection of English nursery rhymes and fairy tales, as an English children's game in the mid-19th century. The song and associated game are traditional in England, and different versions are found in Scandinavia and the Netherlands. R.S. Duncan, a prison governor at H.M. Prison, Wakefield, West Yorkshire, England, suggested that the nursery rhyme was about female Victorian prisoners exercising in the yard at Wakefield. A mulberry tree grew in the yard, and women inmates would dance around the tree with their children and sing the song. The tree died in May 2019.
That is just a crazy old tree.
Yeah.
Like to think that they lived so long. Oh my God. Like I was trying to do the math in my head, which is not happening. But it's like 221 years old for a tree. Jesus. I cannot get my trees to live in my backyard to save my life.
I can't even get my plants to live in the
Right?
backyard.
Oh my goodness. Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Humpty Dumpty rhyme can be tracked back to at least the late 15th century and is an allusion to King Richard III. Richard III briefly reigned as King of England between 1483 and 1485, after his brother King Edward IV passed away. Edward was to be succeeded by his son and namesake Edward V. But as the young Edward was a minor in 1483, Richard was chosen to serve as regent until he reached adulthood. Richard can hardly be said to have honored his brother's faith in him, and quickly placed young Edward and his younger brother Richard in the Tower of London, from where they never reappeared. The assumption is Richard had his two young nephews killed, and thereafter he usurped the throne. He did not go unchallenged in this, and Henry Tudor, a Welsh upstart, overthrew him in 1485 by defeating Richard in a combat at the Battle of Bosworth Field. All of this is relevant to Humpty Dumpty because Richard suffered from scoliosis and was a hunchback. Additionally, his horse was allegedly called Wall, so in the later years, when figures such as the great playwright William Shakespeare wrote about Richard, they emphasized his humpback. When the rhyme refers to him falling off a wall, this would seem to be the reference to his horse, which Richard is recorded to falling off at a battle of Bosworth Field, and the king's soldier and men are a reference to his forces at the battle being unable to win the day against Henry Tudor's army. A later theory was that Humpty was not a person at all, but a massive siege cannon that was used by royalist forces, the king's men, during the English Civil War that raged between 1642 and 1651. During the siege Holster, in 1648, the royalists hauled Humpty Dumpty to the top of the church tower of St. Mary at the walls, and for 11 weeks, Humpty sat on the wall and blasted away at attacking parliamentarian Roundhead troops defending the town.
That one is like one I always ask my kids. How do you know he's an egg?
I mean, because storybooks tell us so.
Well, they're like, but he's an egg. And I'm like, but how do you know he's really an egg? Do you really know the story behind him?
Well, now you can tell them.
Ring Around the Rosie, 1881. Ring around the ring a ring a why does yours say ring a ring? Ring
That's
around a
what.
roses, a pocket full of posies. A tissue, we all fall down. Fishes in the water, fishes in the sea. We all jump up with 1, 2, 3. Ring around the roses, pocket full of posies. A tissue, we all fall down. See, I don't know it that way.
Okay, so Ring a Roses is the original writing of it, and then the North American version is Ring
Okay,
Around the
so I'll
Roses.
do it over. Ring a roses, a pocket full of posies. A tissue, we all fall down. Fishes in the water, fishes in the sea. We all jump up with a 1, 2, 3. Ring a roses, a pocket full of posies. A tissue, we all fall down. Ring a rose of roses is said to be macabre parody of the horrors of the 1665 Great Plague of London that killed nearly 15% of the country's population. The roses were the red marks of the bubonic plague, while the posies were the flowers plague doctors used to lessen the stench of death all around. The ashes were supposed to represent the cremated bodies of those who died from the Great Plague, and the falling down meant, well, falling down dead. Sneezing was taken as a sure sign that you were about to die of it, and the last line, "We all fall down," omits the word dead.
That one's creepy. And fun fact, did you know that the reason people say bless you when you sneeze is because back during like the bubonic plague, when someone sneezed, that usually meant that they had it. And so they would send the priest to bless them and their
Huh.
family because they were going to die.
Oh my gosh.
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting.
It totally makes it feel different once you know that when someone sneezes, you say
Yeah.
bless you. You're like,
Makes sense.
right?
That's crazy. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Creepy facts.
Yeah. Okay, Rockabye Baby, 1765. Rockabye Baby on the treetop, when the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bow breaks, the cradle will fall, and down will come baby, cradle and all. Rockabye Baby, gently you swing, over the cradle, mother will sing. Sweet is the lullaby over your nest that tenderly sings my baby to rest. From the high rooftops down to the sea, no one as dear as baby to me. Wee little hands, eyes shiny and bright, now sound asleep until morning light. Rockabye Baby on the treetop, when the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bow breaks, the cradle will fall, and down will come baby, cradle and all. One interpretation of this famous lullaby is that it is about the son of King James II of England and Mary Modena. It's widely believed that the boy was not their son at all, but a child who was brought into the birthing room and passed off as their own in order to ensure a Roman Catholic heir to the throne. Rockabye Baby refers to events preceding the Glorious Revolution. The rhyme is laced with connotation. The wind may be the Protestant forces blowing in from the Netherlands, the doomed cradle, the royal house of Stuart. The earliest recording version of the words in print contain the ominous footnote, "This may serve as a warning to the proud and ambitious who climb so high that they generally fall at last." However, some say the real story behind Rockabye Baby is that Effie Crockett, the older sister of Davy Crockett, visited the Muskogee tribe to help some mothers. When she arrived at their camp, she was surprised when she saw something unusual. The tribe's babies were not lying in cradles on the ground. Instead, they were gently tied and hung in small cradles from the branches of birch trees. Effie thought it was strange at first, but as she stayed longer, she began to understand. The babies were high above the ground, safe from bugs, hot sun, and wild animals. As the wind blew, the trees rocked them gently, just like a mother's arms. Each baby lay peacefully, watching birds, butterflies, and the dancing leaves. The fresh air touched their skin, and they smiled at the world around them. Effie was deeply touched. One day she saw a Muskogee mother looking at her child hanging in the cradle. The mother softly sang a song in her native language. As she sang, a tear fell from her eye. Effie wrote down the song and shared it with others. It became the lullaby we all know today, Rockabye Baby. But most people never knew the deep meaning behind the song. The Muskogee mother cried because she knew what the song truly meant. The branch holding her baby would one day break, not from danger, but because her child would grow. He would outgrow the cradle, fall to the ground and become strong enough to stand. One day her baby would no longer need her protection. He would become a man. The cradle falling was not the end. It was the beginning of his life's journey, a message to all. This lullaby was born from Native American love and wisdom. It reminds us that every moment is precious, that letting go is part of love, and that nature teaches us the gentlest lessons. Honor the roots of this song, honor the native voices that carried its meaning in their hearts. So that was really sweet.
Yeah, that one's like the first version of it is kind of dark, but then the other
Yeah.
reason, and you know, who's to say which version is true, right? Like, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna go with the Native American version on this one.
Yeah, it's a very sweet. I
Sorry
like it.
Yeah, sorry to my English heritage, but
Almost broke a tear
I'll
out.
stick. Right?
I was like,
I know
aw.
as you're reading it, I'm like, thank
Yeah.
God you're reading that one because
Yeah.
I think I would have
Well, I'm
just been
like
like,
reading it and I'm
sobbing.
starting to tear up. I'm like, oh my God. Here we go.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Some things, man, like I always thought that I was pretty good with the emotional stuff. I'm like, I
Oh.
don't get emotional, it's fine. But I swear, as I age, I'm like,
Oh.
cry
Yeah.
over silly things.
I
Silly
cry
things and
over.
not silly things, but my God.
I cry all the time too. All the time.
It must be an
Funny.
age thing.
Yeah, it must be.
That's
Yeah.
like for some people, they're just more in tune with their sensitive
Yeah.
side and stuff, which is great. Me, that just was never me at all. And now I'm like, fucking age. Stupid hormones. How dare you? How dare you make me cry? As dark as some of the nursery rhymes we grew up with and still share today are, German nursery rhymes hit on a whole new level. As my German doesn't go beyond, do you speak German? And no, I will spare you the verses and just give you a brief description of my top three picks. I apologize in advance to any German speaking listeners for me butchering this. I looked it up and listened to it too. I'm like, I'll remember that. No, not at all. They say it so fast. I'm like, wait, say it again. So Zygar, no, never mind. So the English translation is Hoffman Hironit, the sad tale of the matchbox. The truly sad story of the matches. A girl wants to play with matches, but a cat tells her not to. She plays with them anyway and burns to death.
Wow.
Right? I mean, we have
Wow.
eggs falling off walls, but burns to death. Oh my God. Okay. Hoffman Heinrich, the story of Augustus who would not have any soup. The story of Soup Caspar. Caspar, a chubby, healthy boy, refuses to eat his soup. 5 days pass, which he continues to refuse his soup, so he wastes away and dies. Gotta eat your soup, kids.
Yeah.
Okay, Hoffman Heinrich, the story of Flying Robert. The story of Flying Robert. Despite the fact he knows boys and girls should stay inside during storms, Robert goes outside during a storm. The wind catches his umbrella and takes him into the clouds and far away, where no one hears his cries. He is presumably never seen again.
Like the movie Up.
Right?
Oh my gosh. I cried. Cried in that
Like,
movie.
did you? Oh no.
I love that
I actually
movie
don't think
though.
I've seen it. I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, I love
Right?
that movie.
All those Disney movies make me cry.
But now they're changing
Yeah.
it, like the Little Mermaid. It's not like the Little Mermaid we grew up with the red hair
Right.
and
Yeah.
Well, have you seen the reels where I don't know who started it, but somebody said that redheads are like black people.
Oh.
So they're like there's this whole explanation. I'm not gonna pretend I remember what it was,
Huh.
but for some reason, so that's their theory is that's why Disney put Ariel like change.
Well,
Right.
skin color. But
Tinkerbell, right? From
yeah,
Peter Pan. Apparently, they removed her from like all the meet and greets and all that because something to do with her being bad or negative in Peter Pan is why they don't associate her anymore.
oh my goodness. We actually are going to do an episode on
Yeah, we should.
the true stories behind the
Yeah.
Disney movies because as I was like looking up this, I ended up going down a deep, deep rabbit hole. And holy shit, man. Some like, and I mean, not that I'm open. I know that some of the Disney movies people say there's bad stuff because of this or that, like whatever, like the Snow White thing, like it's funny because people who complain about the Snow White, like she gets kissed while she's asleep. That's not the actual story behind it. It is much, much worse. So let's just go with she got a kiss while sleeping, an
Oh,
unwanted kiss, whatever. But we'll go with that one.
I
And
can't wait to
there's
do that episode. Hopefully, I can pronounce all the words.
the sad part is a lot of them come from German stories, so
Yeah, yeah,
we might
yeah.
not be pronouncing that well, but
Tongue
it's
twisters and yeah,
yeah. But I mean, I think it was back in a time when stories were just story, like they were
yeah,
based on true stuff, but it wasn't taken into account age appropriateness because
right,
that's a fairly new concept, right? Like, and
right.
it's become like what was age appropriate when I was a kid. So if you think about the movie Jaws, that's PG. So the same as most Disney movies are PG, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
So what was age appropriate at one time
Oh yeah,
is
is no
not
longer
necessarily
no.
age appropriate, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So,
I totally watched Jaws when I was little. I'm like, I wouldn't
right?
let my little one watch it now.
See, and I showed it to my kids when they were little,
Yeah,
but my kids are like 25 and 29 now.
yeah,
So when I make references to what I did with my kids, it was okay back then, almost 30 years ago,
exactly.
right? So yeah,
I'm very much like my daughter. She's not 5 years old. Obviously, I wouldn't let her watch it if she was 5. She's 11. Yes, I'm very easygoing in that sense. I don't try to, what's the word?
censor,
Um, yeah. There's like no censoring around my kids. Like I swear, I have a potty mouth. If I'm watching a scary movie, they're watching a scary movie. My daughter started watching scary movies at a very young age, right?
yeah,
That's how I
yeah.
am. I think that's because that's how I was raised, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah,
So, and yeah, I don't need to hide anything. So that's the kind of parenting
right.
person I am. Yeah.
You should hear the songs that my kids listen to, and they're only 5 and 8.
Well, yeah,
And it's just because it's my music, and I'm like,
yeah.
meh, you're gonna learn it anyways.
Well, that's the
Yeah,
thing, right? They're gonna learn it anyways. And,
yeah,
I'd rather my daughter be knowledgeable at 10, 11 years old than everyone else around her be knowledgeable. And she's like, what's that? Right?
Yeah.
yeah. My
Yeah,
theory was, yeah, I always wanted my kids to hear the worst
yeah,
from home because
yeah.
at least then we could explain it. Like we used to sing Eminem, which I get there's way worse stuff out there, but we used to sing some of the, quite not age appropriate songs like on the way to soccer practice with my kids when they were like 5, and they would sing the words, but we would also explain like, this is just a song, right? And you can't actually smack your bitch up, like
Oh my God.
right?
Oh my God. So funny. So my daughter, one day we were on our way to hockey, and I'm like, this is your theme song. And it goes like, I don't fuck with you, you little stupid ass bitch. I ain't fucking with you. Sing that on the ice.
But
So,
honestly, it's better for them to hear it from us, and so
yeah,
hear us see the comical side of it and like
yeah,
have the discussions of, they're just singing a song. They're
yeah,
not,
that's,
person actually is not this way. Like it's a
yeah,
persona that they're putting out and
yeah,
stuff like that. versus hearing it from the playground where the kids are like, yeah, we're gonna do that and stuff, right? Like, so if
Yeah.
your kids already know that stuff, when other kids are singing it, they're like, man, it's not a big deal,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's how we did it anyway. I get now things are different, and for whether it's better or worse, who knows? Who's to say, right? But I
Yeah.
mean, my kids turned out just fine.
Yeah.
None of them go around smacking up bitches.
You know what?
Like,
Mine turned out just fine too. I have some great
yeah,
adult children, and yeah.
And mine, like, they hear it and they're used to it. So, like, I have day home kids that'll come using every F-bomb, dropping it, and they're young. But my kids are just like, yeah, that's a bad word. We don't say that yet. Yeah, you're right. And they just walk on
right?
by.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just it. It's like the whole theory with like if you don't let your kids have candy because you don't want them to eat too much candy, well then, so if you keep that from them, the first chance they get to get candy on their own, they're
Yep.
gonna like gorge on it, right?
Yep.
If it's
Yep.
not a big deal, if they get to have like a little bit every day or whenever, like it's not a big deal for them. They're
No.
not gonna overindulge. They're just gonna, it's like whatever. It's no big deal. We get it whenever we want. So it's not, we don't have to go crazy with it. So
Yeah.
Well,
I think it can. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
sometimes I find it's just easier coming from us being the adults than
yeah,
having everybody else, the peer pressure
yeah,
to do it.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, the candy thing, I think that can lead to eating issues as you get older too,
Oh,
right?
100%.
Hoarding candy, hoarding, because there's lots of people who don't let their kids eat that stuff, right? So
Yeah,
I think that can lead to a whole other issue as they get older.
yeah. And I mean, I get it. Like candy's not healthy. I understand. I have a wicked candy addiction. Oh my
So
God.
do I. I have a chocolate addiction.
Right? I hit Bulk Barn before my movie yesterday and oh man.
Yeah,
But we grew up really, really poor, so we didn't have that. We like it
yeah,
what treats and candy and stuff. It not that we never had any, but it was definitely not a thing that I was exposed to. So now I'm like every chance I get, I just
yeah.
want it.
Give me the
And which
candy.
is so bad, but right? And I
Yeah,
have no willpower. Zero willpower when it comes to
no,
candy.
no.
And yeah, so and my kids, they grew up, they could have as much as they want whenever they wanted. And
Yeah,
they honestly did not want it that often. Like I remember,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah, I remember taking them to the grocery store. We were having like a just mom and kid weekend kind of thing. And I was like, let's go to the store and we'll buy whatever treats you want. Whatever you want, you can have it. So I'm putting candy in the cart and I'm like, this is gonna be great. And I have this container of strawberries. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, treat weekend. You can have whatever you want. They're like, okay, but can I have the strawberries? And I'm like, okay. And they're like, but I'm gonna eat them all to myself. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I feel you're missing something. And they're like, well, we'll have a little bit of candy, but the things that I wanted were
yeah,
like healthier stuff. Not that they
exactly.
never had healthier stuff during the day or like regularly, but I guess maybe it was more of like, we've got to share these strawberries between us because,
Yeah,
like groceries have always been expensive, but so it was more, this was, they got to eat the whole thing to themselves. And I was like, oh my goodness. But like that, it was such an eye-opening moment, like
yeah,
more of a reflection of my own issues. Like,
yeah,
I'm like, why do you not want candy? But yeah, it was, yeah. So yeah, if you, the more you keep stuff from your kids, the more
yeah,
they want it.
exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for Day Home Divas this week.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Dayhome Divas, on TikTok at dayhome.divas, and join our Facebook group, Dayhome Divas.
If anyone has any topics you want us to cover, or if you have any questions or suggestions, you can email us at dayhomedivas@gmail.com.
We would also appreciate it if you could rate and review us on whatever platform you're listening on. It really helps the podcast move up on their charts so it gets more exposure. Hope you join us again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.